In 2016, a wild elephant matriarch in Kenya led her entire herd on a journey lasting nearly 2 days just to visit the bones of her dead sister. When she reached the skull, she stood there, touching it gently with her trunk for almost 10 minutes. Other elephants in the herd did the same. Scientists still don't fully understand why, but it raises a question that sounds simple, but really isn't. Do animals actually know they're going to die?
Here's why this question is trickier than it looks. Humans don't just react to danger. We carry something a psychologists call mortality salience, the constant background knowledge that one day we will die. Even when we're perfectly healthy, we know the end is coming. That is very different from fear. A rabbit running from a fox isn't thinking about death as a concept. It's reacting to a threat in the moment. So the real question isn't, do animals fear danger? Of course they do. The real question is, do any animals understand death the way we do? As something permanent, universal, and eventually personal? By the end of this video, you'll see which animals seem to cross that line and which ones might understand it better than we give them credit for.
Let's start with the clearest evidence: grief. Elephants are the most studied case. Beyond that Kenya story, researchers have documented elephants standing vigil over dying herd members for hours, sometimes trying to lift a collapsed elephant back onto its feet using their trunks and tusks. When that fails, some stay near the body for days. Orcas do something similar. In 2018, a mother orca named Talekwa, pronounced Tal Ukwa, made global news when she carried her dead calf on her head through open ocean for 17 days, over 1,000 miles, before finally letting go. Chimpanzees show it too. Primatologists have filmed groups going dead quiet around a dying member, sitting close, grooming the body, and returning to the spot repeatedly afterward. But here's the critical distinction scientists are careful about. Grief is not the same as understanding death. An animal can be deeply distressed by loss, by the absence of a companion, without necessarily grasping that death is final, or that it will happen to them one day too. So grief tells us animals feel loss deeply. It doesn't yet tell us they understand mortality.
This is where folklore and real science start to blur. So let's be skeptical here. You've probably heard that cats know when they're dying and go off to hide alone. The popular explanation is almost poetic, that they sense the end and want solitude. The more likely, evidence-based explanation is far less mystical. Hiding is an instinctive behavior. In the wild, a sick or weakened animal is vulnerable to predators. Hiding isn't a conscious choice about mortality. It's an ancient survival reflex that kicks in whenever an animal feels unwell, whether or not that illness is fatal. Elephants have also been reported to isolate themselves when sick or very old. But again, researchers are cautious about calling this knowing they're going to die, rather than simply responding to pain and weakness the way most animals do. Then there is terminal lucidity. This is a strange, well-documented phenomenon in humans and some pets, where an individual near death shows a sudden, unexpected burst of energy shortly before passing. It's real, and it is documented in hospice care, but it's a physiological event, not evidence of an animal contemplating its own end. So, a lot of the animals sense death folklore as a much more grounded biological explanation underneath it.
Now, here's where it gets genuinely strange, because some of the most striking death-related behavior in the animal kingdom involves creatures with no complex brain at all. Ants perform something called necrophoresis, pronounced necrophoresis. Worker ants physically carry dead ants out of the colony and dump them in a designated area, like a tiny graveyard. It looks intentional, it looks almost ceremonial. But the trigger isn't recognition of death, it's chemistry. A dead ant's body releases a compound called oleic acid, pronounced oleic acid. Worker ants are hardwired to respond to that specific chemical signal by removing whatever is producing it. Scientists proved this by dabbing oleic acid on a living, healthy ant, and its nestmates carried it out anyway, struggling the entire way. That's a powerful contrast. It shows you can get death-related behavior, removal, avoidance, even something that looks like ritual, with zero understanding of death whatsoever, just pure biological programming. Which raises an uncomfortable question. How do we know elephants and orcas aren't doing something similarly automatic, just at a more emotionally complex level? This is genuinely contested territory in comparative psychology, and honest science communicators should say so clearly. One camp argues that species like elephants, great apes, and possibly dolphins show a rudimentary concept of death. They point to the vigils, the grief responses, and the fact that these are among the few animals that pass the mirror self-recognition test. Meaning, they recognize themselves as distinct individuals. Self-awareness is considered a prerequisite for understanding mortality. You have to have a sense of self before you can grasp that the self will end. The other camp urges caution against anthropomorphizing, pronounced anthropomorphizing, projecting human-like understanding onto behavior that might have simpler explanations. Just like the grieving cat turned out to be a survival instinct. Right now, there is no consensus. Researchers can observe the behavior, but they can't get inside an elephant's head to confirm what it's actually thinking. So, do animals know they're going to die? Here is where the evidence actually points. Most animals react to death through instinct, chemical signals, learned fear, and survival reflexes, without any conceptual understanding behind it. But a small handful of species, elephants, great apes, dolphins, and orcas, show behavior that goes further. Recognition. Grief, something that resembles ritual, whether that means they truly understand mortality the way humans do. Science still doesn't know for certain. And maybe that's the most unsettling part. We tend to assume humans are the only species that lies awake thinking about the end. We might not be. If animals can grieve like that, can they also feel guilt? That's next time on The Unasked.